With a big old burrito in your mouth. Welcome, everybody. Today's episode is going to be unhinged. I believe. No, I know it's going to be unhinged. It's going to be a lot different than the others.
Mhm.
We obviously Kelsey is back on. We had talked about her in her episode that'll come out before this one, and Kristina, who runs all my shit. So, without further ado, I'm going to start this off very, very hot, like. All right.
Oh God.
So, why what's the point of marketing? Marketing is expensive, it's irrelevant, there's performance stuff. Marketing doesn't work. Why do we do marketing, and what's the point as a business owner?
I love it. He's like really going right in.
I know. Like, shit. Okay.
Straight for the jugular.
All right. Well, Kelsey, why don't you go first from a personal brand aspect, and I'll hit it from the company overall aspect.
From a personal brand, why marketing?
Yeah.
To build awareness, get yourself out there and get your message out there.
Yeah, but isn't that just the same as, like, walking down the street and talking to somebody? Isn't that how businesses work and grow anyway? Is just word of mouth?
Well, I think yes and no. I mean, how do you know you want to buy something if you don't know it exists?
Exactly. And from the angle from like a company, I did a post on this about on LinkedIn the other day. I've been really unhinged on this topic lately. But at the end of the day, social media has become one of the main sources, right, for people to find you, right? And so why do you need to market? Because people need to be able to find you. People aren't doing traditional marketing like they were back in the day. Nobody's fucking using newspapers, right? Like put an ad on radio. Who the hell even listens to the radio like that anymore, right? So when you think about traditional marketing that people used to do, a lot of those outlets are irrelevant. Social is that main form that people are using to find people. I think, and you guys might be a little different, but I know me, whenever I'm looking for a new company or somebody to work with, whatever that looks like, I always go to their social first. I actually go to their social before I even touch their website. So I go to their social and then I go to their website. Either way, a lot of people are doing one of the two. And so if you're not marketing, if you're not putting yourself out there, like, it's just like it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You only get so much business off of word of mouth, and then in addition to that, like, word of mouth takes time. It takes a lot of time. I'm heavily referral based in my business, but like that's only been over the last few years. If I didn't have any social media presence before that and wasn't putting myself out there, then how the fuck would anybody refer me? They don't even know me.
Well, and I'll bounce off of that too, just like thinking about radio advertisement or TV commercials. Like, it's all marketing. We're being sold to every second of every fucking day, right?
It's a marketing scam.
And this came up with a client just this week. She's like, we were workshopping, why marketing and why positioning yourself as a solution is because it's going to take repetition. So I gave her the example. You may hear a roofing commercial on the radio every day you're driving to work and you don't need a new roof, but when you do need a new roof, you're going to remember fucking Smith Brothers roofing or whatever it is, right? It's just like it's not that again, marketing is positioning a solution to a problem.
Yeah.
And not everyone's going to have that same problem all day every day, but certain people will. And they're not going to find you as the solution if you're not saying like, hey, here I am.
You're not in their face. Mm-hmm.
But like my business, not my business, I'm speaking for others at this point because clearly
you use social media.
Clearly different. Most businesses, they post every now and again on their company page. They might have a basic website. Isn't that good enough?
No.
Do you want to just be good enough?
I mean, will you make good money? You want to be good, right? Is that good enough?
No, because what about the few, like that only works for so long, right? And it doesn't even really work for that long, right? Like if you're not putting yourself out there, people aren't going to know about you. And so, yeah, that could be good enough to get the few people that you're looking to get. But what if you're really looking to expand? What if you're looking to get into other states, I mean, Kelsey and I work with people all over the world, right? And so would I have been able to work with people all over the world just because I had some good SEO on my website? No, because say I'm working with somebody in Belgium, which I am, right? She's going to Google, right? Social media marketing. My business isn't going to come up in fucking Belgium, like, right? Even if I have the most bomb SEO, it's going to, right? So that makes a huge difference. But what is she can get access to is my social media, is my marketing, right? And so if you're really looking to expand, well, whatever, if you want to be good enough, then that to me, that means you don't want to scale your business.
Well, and your reach and everything. And if you think about it, in this day and age, you don't have to live locally with someone to be able to help them.
Exactly.
And what I see a lot, especially from the personal branding standpoint, is people by people. And let's say I wanted to expand my business in Belgium, but I wasn't on social media. I would physically have to be in Belgium shaking hands and, you know, kissing asses and being like, this is what I do, right? But social media gives us the ability to reach more people at a faster rate that live outside of our network, that maybe relate to us or relate to our story.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, a lot of us do a certain skill, like we have a certain skill that you could get anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to make people invest in you, Stoy, for their financial planning, right? There's probably like, probably the jacket.
Right.
It's definitely the jacket.
It's just a jacket.
But even if you aren't looking to like expand, right? Like even if you're like, okay, for I'm thinking of like lawyers or therapists, right? They're usually only credentialed to do their service in like whatever state they live in, right? And so people might think, well, you know, I'm local. Do I really need to worry about reaching other people? But yes, you still need to have that presence out there. And then the other flip to it too, it's not just about the digital footprint, especially when it's local, it's about what are you doing in the community? Are you getting out there? Are you marketing yourself at events, right? There's layers to marketing. There's so many ways that you can market yourself, right? So again, just having a good website with some SEO isn't enough if you're not doing those other pieces. Like I said, even if you're not trying to reach people in fucking Belgium, you still need to be doing the marketing pieces so that people see who you are.
If you keep saying Belgium, I'm gonna have to go get some waffles for lunch.
Damn.
Okay, I need you to stop.
That sounds good.
Right?
Damn.
So with marketing, brand awareness, all of that, a lot of business owners will say, I don't want to be out there personally in the public. I don't want people to know who my family is. I don't want to do all of that. I think that's bullshit and that you need to do that. But from you to, as the experts, if you will, why is it important for your story and all of us to be out there with who we are, not just always like business only? I'm not always talking about Black Mammoth only, right?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
I can go first because this is actually like something I talked about on social media recently. I have a boundary with how much I share my kids. Like I don't share my kids and what they're going through on social media. That's a hard boundary that I set. I'm also the mom of 2 girls, and I wanted it to be, if they wanted to be a part of my social media presence, I wanted to give them consent. I didn't want to use my kids as a marketing strategy, right? And that's just a personal boundary with me. I'm pretty open about a lot of other things that I share on my social media, but to me it was a boundary between my family life that I'm like, you know, there's only so much that I want to share. And I think that is a personal boundary within you as the business owner. So yeah, to anyone that's like, yeah, I don't want to like blast my shit out on social media. No one said you had to. Right. But like your personality coming through, bits and pieces of your story that are relatable to the service that you provide. I think that's really important, and that's how I would approach that question, or answering that question.
I would say that everything you said, I agree with, right? Because again, it's all about the boundaries. Like you don't have to put every little thing out there. Shit, I released that podcast about what happened to me in 2023. You know, maybe people are like, yo, I didn't even know you had that. Oh, well, yeah, because I don't put every little thing out there, but I'm still really personal. But on the flip side of things too, when you're only posting business content, that shit is boring as fuck. Like, nobody wants to just consume business content. And I always encourage business owners who are, doing their own marketing, like, think about the shit you like to consume, right? And I'm not saying go post that kind of content. I'm just saying, think about the type of content you like to consume, how you connect with people, right? Chances are people are connecting with you the same way. One of my most, this is like the funniest thing. It's really stupid and highly don't recommend anybody do this or do it. But one of my like most viewed stories was on Instagram, like an Instagram story. I bought a bikini and like this ass was not fitting in that bikini bottom. And I remember putting it on social and I was just like, this ass ain't fitting in this bikini bottom, right? I had so much engagement from that freaking post, but it was fun, right? It was funny. Again, not saying go flash your ass. I'm just saying it was like something personal and funny that people were able to connect to. And that actually does lead to them wanting to work with you, right? Because they're getting not my bikini bottom, but they're getting insight to who you are as a person, right? And as Kel said before, people buy into people, right? Especially from a financial advisor standpoint. Me going to this conference next week, I just keep thinking these are a bunch of stuffy ass white dudes, right? And like, I'm not going to look to that person to help me with my financials. Whereas like Stoy, I'll look at your shit because you're personal, you're having fun, you're being relatable. I'm like, oh, like this feels more authentic to me. And so I think it's just really important, like putting your personality out there because again, that's what people are really going to buy into. And once like, I think a lot of people too, a lot of us have been, I know the three of us specifically, we've been in our industries for a really long time at this point. We're established in what we do. And so it's fun to share things outside because people get to know us from, a different perspective than just business.
It sounds like
no, I was just going to say, it kind of ties back to like a conversation that we had in our episode, right? Where you were saying like, how do you kind of break out of what you've known? And to Kristina's point, she's probably not going to work with a stuffy white dude, so it's like it helps to see people like you doing the skill that you need help with, right? So there's just like we buy based on values. I could go into a whole like buying strategy psychology type of thing, right? But like we buy based on our values and connection. And just like Kristina said, like her most viewed stories, one of my most viewed stories was when I was cleaning out my closet and I was like, hey, fun fact, I learned over Christmas, you're supposed to replace your underwear every 6 months.
What about that story?
And I put up, and it was like 500 plus people voted on that story. And that's the most I've had in a couple of years. And I did tie it back to something, a teachable moment in the work that I do. But it's interesting to see like what pops off and what doesn't.
It sounds like it's super simple, right? It's your everyday life. Those two stories you guys used was just like you were doing something in your normal day life and we're like, shit, I got to talk about this, right? Yeah. And I believe that is the simplest route and the easiest route for every business owner and whoever's wanting to create content is you're just day-to-day stuff. You just have to remember to actually record it and go through that, right? Yeah. It's really that simple.
But I think to that point, like neither of us were trying to do anything. Like we weren't trying to like lead that to sales. Yeah. It just was like something funny. Like a lot of times that comes up and I'm sure Kristina can relate to this too. It's just like something you're just like, oh, this is funny, or I'm just going through this right now. And you pop it up there with no intention of it leading to sales, but it converts because there was personality. You were showing some of your humanness. And I think for me personally, when I'm not trying to make content convert, we're talking social media marketing specifically, it's like I make the most sales when I'm like not trying to sell.
Me too. I think people also just like I said, especially because again, we are established in our industries. People already know what we do. People know what we do. And none of us have a service that Kelsey maybe is a little more urgency with her service, but Stoy, our services aren't urgent, right? It's one of those things that people are like, oh, when I need it, I know who to go to. And why will they come to us? Because we've established that brand, because we've infused our personality about it. Like people work with me because they genuinely trust me. That's not by me spinning off 3 social media tips, right? That's just me being the asshole that I am and people connecting with that personally. You know, when I think about even, I've like, you know, when I've scouted out different clients and stuff, one of the things that I stray away from if somebody is really religious heavy, right? Where they're like, oh, I'm like super Christian based. Okay, like I know that's not going to work with me, right? But that will work for somebody, and I think that's still a very important piece to infuse into their content, right? Because it's a values thing. It don't work for me, but that's okay. Right? So I think like it doesn't matter what business you're in, really infusing your own personality and your values and stuff is what's going to ultimately connect you with the ideal client. And then when it's time for them to have the service they need, they're going to know exactly who to come to because they already connected with you on a personal level.
Okay, so we pounded home that it's relatively easy to be yourself and it converts sales, but now let's really get into like how the hell do we do this, right? Let's start with a business that may have a basic ass website and really nothing else. Talk me through what needs to kind of happen in the beginning and go through the entire marketing situation, please.
Well, you can put us
right?
Hey,
you're good at what you do, so you better get it.
Well,
so
like if you're thinking like someone, all they have is a website.
I'm a business owner. All I have is a website. I sell widgets, or it doesn't matter what it is. I might have my own personal Facebook because everyone in the world does. Yeah. But that's really it, right? I might have my business page up on Facebook, but we don't do anything, right? It's just there to be there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is understanding your target audience. That's the first thing you're going to need. We can't even start to build out any type of marketing strategy if you are not super, super clear on what it is that you offer and who you serve, right? And I think I see this a lot. And I know Kelsey does from the coaching aspect. I even see it a lot from the service provider aspect where exactly what you're saying, a client will come to me and they only have a website. But then when I start to dig deeper with them, they don't even like really understand what their brand is even about. Right. And, or like I had a huge company I worked with last year. They couldn't even tell me what their brand was about, which was a huge problem. And so before you can even get started with that marketing plan, you need to tap into that first.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of thinking like just kind of outside of the box here, right? Like think about when you're traveling and you're looking for a restaurant to eat. I think when I go back to the basics of like where you should position yourself is where are people looking for a solution? So I'm traveling, I'm out to eat. I want to go out to eat. I'm like Thai restaurants in my area. Where am I going to be looking? Like probably Google, Yelp, Google Maps. Like I've
TikTok.
Yeah. Like, and so it's just like, I use Google Maps even to like find restaurants near me sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, yes, where your ideal client is, but any good entrepreneur is creating a solution. I'm selling you a solution, right? Like I have something that you need. Now it's positioning it in places where people are asking those kinds of questions. So it's like, yeah, a simple website could be enough, right? For a Google search, but who's your ideal client? And how do I mute myself? Mute at the bottom.
I got.
Oh no, so it's like, where are you positioning yourself, and where is your ideal client looking for answers? Because that's where we meet them. Where like good marketing is meeting them where they're at.
Yes. So that would be the second step then. So it's like, so to really break down the plan, like you asked us to do, right? It would be, I would start with identifying your services and really making sure you're really grounded in those, then identifying who your ideal client is. And then you have to start thinking, okay, what are, like what Kelsey's talking about, what are my ideal clients' behaviors mostly, right? Like what are their user behaviors? And then that's when you start to identify where they hang out. What are they doing, right? Like what platforms are they hanging on, right? Something that came up for me when I was prepping for my conference for next week, especially with financial advisors specifically, was, like nobody thinks to use TikTok, which is why Stoy is such a great example of like thinking outside the box in your industry. Because the truth is, like, there is an ideal client, there is a target audience over there for sure. We're still trying to get like that all mapped out completely, of course, and really narrow it down, but there is a market. So you really have to think about like your age demographic. That's going to be huge. I said this last week and I'll say it again. Millennials and Gen Zs are the adults of the world. That's scary as fuck, right? So think about millennials and Gen Zs. Where are they going to be? On social media, right? Now, then to take it a step further, that's when you start to identify what platforms might they be on, right? Am I looking for somebody who's a little more professional? Cool, I'm going to hit LinkedIn. Am I looking for a tweet asshole? I'm going to hit Twitter. I hate Twitter so much. But my point is, like, that would be the next step in the marketing plan to figure out. And then from there, I think that's when it actually gets easy. I don't think creating content is that hard. I know it's my specialty, but like, I don't think creating content is that hard if you can get out of that mindset piece around it.
So to really find your target audience, I know that I revamped, what is it, a year ago, probably, Kristina, how I've switched to women business owners, minority business owners, which is funny because I grew up in the insurance realm and all we cared about is if you could breathe and fog a mirror. And sometimes you didn't even have to do that, really. And that's how we were trained. Literally, we were trained. That's everybody is a dollar, right? And it obviously it's my whole business partner situation. We got through that, but finally, transitioned. And I want to tell everyone this, like I went through it, audience change or target market change. And really what I looked at is, one, who the hell am I already serving? And of them, who do I like to work with? And 3, how relatable and all of that is and how much fun it is, right? And what I'm hearing from so far, and this will be a common theme of what we talk about, except for the last part of this conversation, is we're not talking about money. We're not talking about how much they can pay you, what their worth is, any of that from a target audience perspective. It's about who they are and if you want to work with them and you like to work with that type of person. Right?
It's interesting that you say that, right? Like as I'm sitting here, it's like the money conversation hasn't come up at all. We're not even talking about like what it costs to work with the person, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like that's the last thing that usually plays a factor. And most people, if they've already connected with you, they're going to find a way to pay. And what I'm hearing from you, Stoy, is like what you've done isn't, you didn't niche what you do. Neither have Kristina or I. We don't niche what we do and how we serve. We've niched our demographic. And this is something I teach my clients a lot, is to niche your language, not yourself. Because I think a lot of things, one thing that I see, like a mistake that happens, especially in personal branding in the online space, is people want to change who they are to serve a certain type of person. And it's like, but then that doesn't work because you've already missed the mark. You're trying to be someone you're not. And you're trying to serve someone that's not, like you're trying to serve someone. The intention is there, but you've done it the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's also important to note that as your business grows and expands, your ideal client is most likely going to change, right? Think about it. I mean, Story, you just said it, but like Kelsey too, like the ideal client you were working with 7 years ago is, I know for sure, the client you want to work with now, right? And vice versa. And so I also think people forget, people tend to think, well, this is my target audience and that's it. I mean, even I remember Stoy and we were talking about different strategy and he was like, I was like, I think we need to do some content centered around this. He's like, yeah, but none of my current clients even give a fuck about that. Well, we weren't trying to target the same type of clients. We were trying to target a totally different demographic. And so it was important for us to, tailor our messaging, not his service, of course, his messaging to that ideal client. And so as you grow and expand, it's going to change. I mean, I just did a big pivot too. Like nothing changes. It's just who I'm talking to. That's it.
Here's a toss up for Kelsey.
Oh, God.
I believe that a business owner can't really understand who their target audience is until they really understand who they are. Right. Now we all start with, I just want to make money. I don't care who the person is. Right. We've all been through that. But once you start understanding and working on who you are, what makes you happy, your relationships, it hones actually in your target audience, regardless. Right. Just because you worked on you. What would be like a few things that before I can even understand my target audience, because I know there's a lot of us out there going, I just want to make money. I'll work with anyone, when truly that's not the case. What are some initial steps that they should work on from their mindset perspective to get them in the right frame of mind to hone this in?
Ooh, I can't wait for to spice this up for content.
Ooh, so good. I'm like,
Go off
listen,
for
the pre-workout's kicking in. Like, I'm getting hot in the seat. Like, I'm like ready to go here, right? Like,
So that's when she's about to fucking pop off. So I'm like watching the sweat about to happen.
yeah. Well, I think to your point, right? You do lead with, well, I can help everyone, right? I started in fitness. I was like, oh, I can help anyone. Like, size, race, shape, whatever, it doesn't matter. I can help them achieve their goals. But what happens is when, you do often need to start with like getting some clients and some experience to realize who you like working with and who you don't, so you can start to sift and sort your messaging.
Yeah.
Right. So to that point is like, if your mindset is I can help everyone and you stay there, you're going to help no one, because you're not relatable enough, and it's not activating enough for people to buy from you.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one, right? So it's like getting that generalistic thing. So again, I go back to niche your language, not yourself. Your service doesn't change. Who you're speaking to does.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to relatability on values, honing in on like who you're getting the best feedback from, like who you really enjoy working with. Like you said, it's like, I don't want to work with people that drain my energy.
But
I don't want to work with people that I need to hold their hands.
yeah.
I
don't think so going back to your question story with like, understanding yourself, it's almost like you kind of got to go through the bullshit in order to understand yourself, right? Like Kelsey's saying, like when you start out, you're like, oh, I'll work with anybody. Of course, we've all done that. I've done that, right? And I think about who I was when I first started my business compared to who I am now. And it's just, oh my God, it's a world of a difference. But I wouldn't have been able to get this understanding about me, my capacity, what I want my business to look like if I didn't go through all that other shit. So it's like, yeah, you want to understand yourself, right? So that you can understand who you can help, but you almost have to go through that trial and error in order to even get there.
And it is uncomfortable to say like I want to help everyone, because like we care more about people than we do money.
Yeah.
And most everyone we work with and in our communities feel that way, because if not, we kick them out or leave them very quickly, or 5 years later. And so it's uncomfortable to do that. But what we're saying in terms of like, for me, it's women and minority business owners, doesn't mean I'm not going to work with a white male who's a business owner either. It's just that our messaging and what we're focusing on is that. Will there always be others? Yes, absolutely. And everyone should be aware of that. It's not like we're purposely going, white male, nah, pass, next question. Now, if they're about a little too old, maybe that is the answer. But what I'm saying is we still have those clients. Those still clients do come in to talk to us. But the ones that we know we really want to work with are around this messaging. So I think that's great.
I know I ask people that all the time. I was just saying, I'll ask people that all the time. They'll be like, because people get so bogged down in the niching down to the like, specific person. I'm like, bro, if like, okay, using the fucking mom narrative, like I only want to work with moms. I'm like, all right, so if I told you I wanted to work with you, but I'm not a mom, are you going to tell me I can't work with you? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, right. So like people need to keep that open mind too. Like, my business is 95% healthcare. Does that mean I won't work with anybody else outside of that? No, I will, but there are parameters, right? Like I got to make sure they're a really good fit for me to do that. And so, yeah, I just want to throw that tidbit in there.
Yeah.
Well, and from a mindset perspective too, is you started a business. You also, yes, strategy is important, and yes, who you're speaking to is important, but you also have to be willing to look at yourself and how you've grown as well, right? Like I'm at a point in my career where working with beginners isn't exciting to me. It's just, it's more of a drain, right? Because I know like there's more effort and energy I need to pour in to get you up to speed, and the ROI on that is not it's just not worth my time, right? So even as I'm self-aware of that and willing to admit that and accept that, and you know what I mean, I'm shifting who I'm speaking to. And so yes, I think as a business owner in entrepreneurship, working on yourself goes hand in hand
Yeah.
with whatever results you want to create.
Yeah.
Here's a tip out there for business owners who are feeling and doing this and are like, well, I want to work with everyone. Go be friends with your colleagues. They're not competition, they're colleagues. Okay.
Great.
Go figure out their business, because when that person comes to you, and for example, for Kelsey, it's a startup, someone brand new, that's not hers. Guess what? I guarantee she has someone in her network that's a colleague and can
Mhm.
just make that introduction. That does a couple things. One, it makes you look like a badass and that you care for that person, because you do. And
Mhm.
two, it's
Mhm.
helping the entire industry wide help these people in whatever service, product, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
To be able to do that transcends who you are to a degree that, like, I don't know, there is no ROI on that. There is no, you could never do that, right? It is a trust, a relationship based thing. So the tip is, go figure out who your colleagues are, get to know them, get to know their business and their niches. And when those people come to you, you have a really good hand to go feed them to.
I
And
just
what-
I literally just did that over the last 2 days. I don't do PR. I don't do PR, but I know somebody who's really good at it. So I can bring them in and say, hey, this person can do PR. And like you said, people are going to respect that, because it's like, hey, you can't work with me, but hey, I got your back either way. There's enough money to go around for everybody. I don't look at anybody I work with as competition, especially because I'm going to be somebody's cup of tea and you're going to be somebody's cup of tea. Somebody might not like me. Most love me, but some might not like me, right? And so it's important to have that network.
Well, and I think it goes to, like, businesses go through seasons. And if you're not looking at it that way, you may need someone else's skill in a different season of business. And something like, I'm gonna have an unhinged comment here too, right? Is like, I like, you're not hoarding followers and you're not hoarding clients. If you're truly service based, is I'm gonna show up and meet you where you're at and promise the service that I sold you. And what, by the end of our contract, hopefully you don't need me anymore. If
Yeah.
you do, re-sign. But if I've gotten you to a point where you're ready to invest in someone else's skills, I've done my job. Right? So I think there's this narrative in the coaching industry specifically, is like, people are so worried about like hoarding clients. I'm like, it's not your job to hoard people.
Dude, how many clients?
Let them go. Let them come in and out of your world.
You and me have worked with how many of the same fucking clients?
Back and forth. It's just like incest.
It's really for incest. It's incest as fuck. I'm thinking of one client that we've definitely tossed back and forth multiple times, right? Because I'm thinking about Kat. That specific client was in very different seasons of her business, where she needed Kelsey and then she needed me and then she needed Kelsey and recently she just needed me again, right? And she's gonna be back with Kelsey soon. And do we feel any type of way about that? No, it actually has made our jobs easier when we do work with that client, because Kelsey and I can come back to each other and I can say, hey, she came to me about this, and she could say, okay, hey, look, when I was working with her, we worked through this. Right. And it's actually made that client flourish even more. So it's like, we don't need to do that. Like, you can share, we can all help each other, but people
This episode's gonna bounce off with Alabama. I'm just, it's gonna be in their search engines. It's great.
Oh, right, with incest.
Listen, I said I'm about to get unhinged. I just opened the door wide open. Kick that motherfucker wide.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Let's go. I can't wait to spice this shit up.
No,
right.
but it's just like, if you're truly looking to, like, again, if we're bringing this all back into context, it's entrepreneurship is problem solving.
Yeah.
And in different seasons of your business, and life, like, let's be honest, let's bring it into life too, because not everything that I focus on with my clients is sales and marketing related. A lot of times it is, lifestyle shit that's bleeding into and hindering their sales and marketing in their business, right? Like, so I'm grateful and I feel blessed that I'm skilled in, you know, my background is diverse because I can tap into different tools and coaching practices when I'm working with people, right? But long story short, it's true entrepreneurship is problem solving, and you're going to have different problems in every season of your life and business.
Absolutely. All right, Kristina's turn. Toss up. Here we go.
Great.
Social media marketing.
Yeah.
What should we be on? I mean, there's how many platforms? Literally every week there's a new platform coming out that's trying to take down Twitter. Tell us, like, what should we be on? What kind of and then we'll get into content creation, but like, tell us, like, what platform should we be on?
Yeah, it depends on your industry. So do you want to throw some industries at me first, and then I can use examples?
Well, let's see. There's let's break it down to there's really only two huge subsets of industries. The service-based people, right? All of us. And then your product-based people,
Yeah.
right? Whether that's restaurants or shoes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really, like I said, it all comes down to who your ideal client is, right? And so these ideal clients there's all these platforms. I'm going to start by saying you don't need to be on every platform like Stoy is. And whoa, I had to throw that one out there. No, but for real, you don't have to be on every single platform if you're on those platforms with intention, right? And so it really just depends on who your ideal client is. Now, again, if your ideal market is that Gen Z millennial crew, then most likely being on Instagram and TikTok are going to be really beneficial for you. Now, right, there are a lot of millennials too over on LinkedIn, but if you're not looking to work with if your service is to work with everyday professionals, right, or just professionals in general, then LinkedIn might be a good choice for you. Kelsey's a service provider, right? But her ideal market might be on Instagram and TikTok, right? Because she's looking to target the everyday person. My ideal market is on LinkedIn, so I'm going to use LinkedIn. Now, if you're a product-based business, I absolutely think you need to be on Instagram and TikTok, especially TikTok, right? TikTok's got some really great things like TikTok Shop. I know Kelsey and I have gotten in a chokehold over TikTok Shop, right? So think about you have to think about who your ideal client is to really determine what platforms you're going to be on. And then you also need to remember that social is just one part of the funnel. If you're not doing everything else, then it doesn't matter. I had a client and I had a shitty situation with like 3 months ago, not even. And it was because her only funnel was social media. Social media can only do so much for you if you're not doing all the other things. If your website is trash, like that's going to play a role, right? Because if your goal is to drive traffic to your social media from your website, or I'm sorry, to your website from your social media, but your website is trash, driving all that traffic is pointless. So it really, when it comes to the marketing side of things, again, I go back to what I said earlier, you have to understand who your ideal client is first.
So you said all the social media and then all the other stuff. All the other stuff is what? Website, obviously?
Website, email marketing. I know, I can't help it. I just don't want to rant. Website, you want to make sure your website's up to par, especially if you're a service-based, right? You want to make sure, if you're a product-based, yes, your website, but you also want to make sure that the consumer experience is positive, right? So if I'm trying to buy something off your website and I have to click around 100 times and then my credit card's not working because it's glitching, whatever the fact is, that's going to deter me from even messing with your product. So you need to make sure that your user experience is really good and really strong. So that's part of the funnel. Email marketing. If you're collecting emails in any way, shape, or form, you should be nurturing them. I just signed on a client 2 weeks ago, and when I went to talk to them, I said they were telling me how they are doing like this lead generation essentially to get patients, and I go, well, what are you doing with those emails once you collect them? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, here's a service for email marketing, sign for it now. And they did. And they were like, yeah, I'm locked in. So, right. So it all comes together. But the most important thing to remember is that all of those things need to be cohesive with each other. They all work together to be successful. So again, if social media is just your thing, that ain't gonna work. You got to do the other things too.
Two things, or one, and then I'll let Kelsey go. Restaurants. If you don't have your menu on your site and I can't get to it easily, and there's no pictures and shit, I'm not coming to your website. I'm just not going. I won't do it.
And that's an industry, again, like then we think about delivery, right? Because marketing is also delivery. And so food wise, I'm a foodie.
Me too.
right? And like I like to see what's on the
Guilty.
I like to see what's on the menu. If you have shitty food pics,
Uh-huh.
and I'm probably not like, again, not trying to be an asshole here, but like I'm going to gravitate to
Right.
the presentation. It's all about aesthetics, especially in food and in the restaurant industry.
Unless you're that
right?
hole in the wall Chinese joint down the street.
That's
then-
different.
It's so funny
If
because
you
it's
got
like
pictures, I'm scared.
Chinese food actually is like what was playing in my mind. But again, it's just like a relatability thing.
Yeah.
As we're having this conversation, it's interesting that all of us kind of were like Chinese food.
I know.
And the low quality pictures, it's like you're the outlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the
Why?
outlier. Do not follow what Chinese restaurants do. Okay, please don't do it.
But also, like, you think about like food pictures so important, right? Because again, so for me, I'm always going to go to social media to check out,
Facts.
right, what their food looks like. I did the content shoot back in December with a local restaurant, right? Got some real high quality photos. I'm just going to put it out there. Living in South Florida, there's a lot of shitty restaurants here, but they got some bomb ass social media that makes their shit look really good, right? And so we're going to bring people in because of the vibes. It's all, restaurants is all about the aesthetics. Living in a very popular area such as South Florida, it's all about the aesthetics and the vibe. And if you can convey that through social, oh man, it's strong, even if your food sucks.
Well, it's like you can be at the most hole in the wall place, right? But if you have really good food photos,
Yeah.
I'm going to choose that over, the fucking
Not the Chinese. I'm always going to choose Chinese.
right. But it's like I like hole in the wall places, but like if your food presentation looks really good, I'm more inclined to try that than the mainstream, busy, popular.
Me too.
Modern is the word I was looking for, like modern.
So you're welcome,
Aesthetic.
That's free advice from all of us, right
Free
there.
plug.
Okay? Just free plug for all of you.
Venmo us, cash out. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
My girl is.
My PayPal's open,
Right. So we've got social medias. We've got obviously we've got your website, email marketing. Where are we in today's age with blogs, articles, and podcasts?
Oh, I think there's such a market for all of that right now. Podcasts are okay. So this is something I'm going to talk about next week. And Story, we do this. Podcasts are such a great outlet to really get all the juice out, right? That's what we're doing right now. We're not going to go on our socials and get all this juice out right here, right? The podcast is a way for people to get the meat of like all of what you're trying to say. I know Kelsey dives really deep into her podcast on things, and so and all of that social content, which is great. But what I really love about like podcasts and email marketing and blogs is it's like that's direct. Right? That's not, you don't have to rely on the algorithm to push your shit out there, nothing. People who are consuming that material really want to consume that material. And I see those things really making a comeback. And then blogging is just good for SEO purposes. So if you should have a blog on your website if it's applicable, because it's going to help. So, I think all of that is super relevant and it's all part of the funnel, but I like the directness that it allows you to have with the potential client a lot.
Yeah, and to answer that for me, I think it swings both ways.
Yeah.
What are your strengths? For me,
it's right for swingers, swinging both ways and incest in Alabama.
I didn't even make that
try.
connection, but it's just like
try.
it goes. It kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
It swings both ways, right? Like.
It does. Oh Lord.
I'm done. Bye. Homer Simpson into the fucking bushes right now. I'm out of here.
Keep going.
I'm done talking. No, but something that I've realized too, and kind of bouncing off what something Kristina said earlier, is if someone only has a website, or first it's understanding what their business is and what it's trying to do, and what stage of business are they in. Right? Like what stage of business are you in? Because she made the reference, and I think I know what client she's talking about, but they're in a brand awareness stage and they're just trying to pump all this stuff through social media. It's like, yeah, you're going to be in that stage probably for a while.
Oh yeah. I don't think
right. And then if your website looks shitty and your social, it's just like, it's a growth process. So what stage of business are you in? also helps me determine where I would coach you. And I think it's focusing on one thing at a time. Like, let's solve one problem at a time. And I think something that we've both seen in a program that we coach in is a lot of these clients are coming in pretty green and they're trying to do all the stuff all at once. And it's just like, no, dude, you need to focus on one thing, like master this one thing, then we can layer in this, and then we can layer in this. And I think that's a big thing I notice in coaching clients. But I think in terms of podcasting and blogs and long form content, it kind of depends if that plays into your strengths.
Yes.
Now, if you don't feel like you have a lot to say, I have a lot to say. Kristina has a lot to say. Like, you can talk, you can go in deep on certain topics. For me, it was exhausting to be doing that in my stories on social media, when I could be doing that on a podcast. That makes it evergreen, that I can then cross promote offers that I have going on. So I like upsell, downsell, I cross promote based on my podcast and social media. But again, I had to get to a point where I was layering that in and playing into where are my strengths and what is the best.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities, or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors, including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.